had a benign cystic fibroid in my breast. It wasn't until I gave up the dairy that it was completely eradicated. African vegan living in the US, it really now made me start to question and want to explore, how can I make what I've been used to growing up eating more, make it plant-based. Oh yes, we eat real good in the plant-based kingdom. We are thin, slim, thick in this plant-based kingdom, okay? It's always yoga and meditation daily. Even if it's not about getting on the mat, you're doing yoga, sitting up in your bed and taking the moment to consciously breathe, do your breath work. That's yoga. I feel good.
That's the most important. Greetings, fellow survivors, thrivers, and healers. I am Natura Tasset, founder of Thrivers Inspire Healing. I hope you all are having a great day. Today, we do have a special guest. Her name is Satta Jallah, and she's a very dynamic woman with many different hats that she wears. She is a holistic wellness entrepreneur, Afro-Vegan chef, and an artist. So Satta has been a holistic wellness entrepreneur for the last 11 years. In 2020, she was awarded a Creative Community Health Fellowship through the Kresge Foundation, Community Health Innovations of Rhode Island Providence Arts, Culture, and Tourism Board. She is also a cohort member of the Pro-Veg Africa Food Accelerator. Satta is passionate about bringing vegan awareness and holistic wellness to the global community, along with her vast knowledge and expertise in industries such as health and wellness, mindfulness-based stress reduction, plant-based nutrition, arts and entertainment, social justice, and reproductive health advocacy. Wow, that is amazing. A lot of different hats, again, like I said, that Satta Jallah is wearing. So I just want to know, what inspired you to begin your wellness journey?
So it was back in 2008. I had gone through a very bad breakup. And at the time I was teaching. So in terms of my arts and entertainment background, I used to dance for a West African dance company out of Brown University. And at the time I had went on to start my own classes. And like I said, I went through a really bad breakup. And one of the women that used to come to my class, she was a well-renowned yoga teacher of color, and which is in New England, that's very rare, right?
Yeah.
But she was featured in Essence magazine. I had always heard her name circulating in the community, and she had came to my class one day, and she absolutely loved it. And fast forward after that, she, I think that the following week, she brought all these dynamic Black women to my class, and it was just full of beautiful women to my class, and it was amazing. And she was like, "We enjoy your class so much." She was like, "Would you consider teaching a African dance workshop at my Women of Color yoga retreat?" So she has been doing Women of Color yoga retreats for the last 20-something years. And I was honored because it was so funny. I had already had it on my vision board that I wanted to go. So the healing retreat center that she teaches a lot at is called Kripalu Center for Yoga. And it's the renowned, yoga center where everyone wants to go and either do a retreat or just, be in that space. And I would always get the catalogs, and I'm like, man, I want to go here one day, but it's kind of, it's a pretty penny to go up there. So fast forward, here's this woman who I've been hearing about, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
who's featured in Essence magazine. She comes to my class and she was like, I want you to teach at my Women of Color yoga retreat. And then she also said, she's like, I really think, I have a feeling that you would be a really great yoga teacher also. So I was like, wow, I need to think about that. Because at the time, you know, my only source of income was me teaching dance. I was unemployed because that was during that the whole housing market crash
Right.
and the economy was, you know, in a weird place. And I was like, well, I would love to, but I really don't know if I can afford it. She was like, no, she was like, I offer scholarships to women of color to come and learn under me. So she awarded me a scholarship as well. And
Wow.
ever since then, she's been a dear, she's like a mother figure to me. She's a mentor. Her name is Maya Breuer, and I love her very much. And she has been amazing to me, an amazing mentor to me over the years. And when I got into my yoga practice now, I became, you know, there's certain things that just awaken in you when you start to, you know, do yoga, right?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, how did it help you with your healing? Just the practice of yoga itself and the type of yogas that you do.
So I learned hatha yoga under her. So Maya had, I think in the late 70s, early 80s, she went to India and she studied under the masters in India, you know, so she, and she was also, you know, first Black American woman to be doing that kind of work and during that time, even though like, you know, in that whole era now that I know the history more, in that era, you had a lot of Black conscious people starting to tap back into those Eastern philosophies, like yoga and things like that. So you look at people like Eartha Kitt, Alice Coltrane, even Rosa Parks was a yogi.
Oh, you know? Really? I did not even know that.
Yes. Oh, okay. Rosa Parks was also a yogi. So, you know, it made sense, you know, in the US, but she was kind of like one of those first women of color, teachers of color to now go back to India. I want to, well, African American, I should say African American teachers to go back to India to learn yoga. But yoga in the West, especially in the US, is still very, there's a lot of cultural barriers, right? So yoga has been commoditized very much in the Western culture.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yes, it's very much commoditized here in the West. And a lot of times it is appropriated by, you know, predominantly white people, right? Because they have the means, they have, you know what I mean? It's a lot of, you know what I'm saying, privileged white women that practice yoga in the West, you know, especially during the times when she started teaching and things like that. And even, you know, in her classes, it would be a majority of privileged white women that take her certification course, again, because they can afford it. They can, you know what I mean? They have the disposable income to do that, you know? So that's why she made it a point to make sure that she had a scholarship for women of color. But fast forward, as I started to go through this training, it was a very unique training. It's not one of those trainings where you speed through it within a matter of like, you know, because sometimes I see certifications where people are doing it within one weekend, you know.
And I never understood, like, how can you learn all
an ancient practice?
Yes, it's a life
codified practice. Right. An ancient codified practice within such a short span of time. And I even tell, you know, people that are looking to join other classes or to start a practice under someone, I'm like, you know, do some investigation and figure out, you know, where they got their training from, how, you know, how long and different things like that, because we're talking about a codified ancient practice, you know, and the way Maya put together her curriculum was so great. It was a 9-month intense study with her. And the way we did it, it was also an independent study as well. So we would meet every weekend, once a month, for every weekend, one weekend out of the month, but throughout the rest of the month, we were doing our own individual self-study. Like she would give us like intent assignments to do. And I noticed myself like every month I would like, it's like peeling back a layer of, you know, things that I didn't know even were there, you know, things that were laying dormant. And my consciousness and my awareness started to awaken in a way where, you know, people would say very deep, profound things, and I would feel and download a deeper understanding from it. I was watching, actually, no, I was hearing a Rasta man speak. This Rasta man, he lives in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica, in one of, you know, and I'm talking about the gully part of Jamaica. Like if you've ever been to Kingston, you know, there's gully area, then there's tourist area, right? So he was saying, I think someone was asking him about his ital livity, right? As a Rasta, you know, because Rastas, they live a very natural, plant-based, vegan, you know, lifestyle, you know, very close to the earth, very much in connection to the earth. And he said something along the lines of, I can't afford to take another life in order to sustain my own. And when he said that, like certain things just started clicking in my mind. I was like, oh, snap, you know, because here is a man who knows that he lives in the ghetto of Jamaica. And the ghetto of Jamaica, you know, you don't know if you can get hit by a stray bullet, you know what I'm saying, one day, you know, and a lot of traumatic things happen, you know, and there's great things that happen in the ghetto in Jamaica as well, too. But there's also a lot of trauma via post-colonialism, right? And colonialism and economics of that island, right? So when he said that, you know, he was like, I'm living in one of the most dangerous parts of Jamaica right now. I can't afford to take another life in order to sustain my own. And there was, in that instance, I understood karma. I understood what karma meant. You know what I'm saying? Like he couldn't afford to stain his karma in such a way, you know, in order to think that he's sustaining his life. It was right in that instance when he explained it, I understood the law of karma, you know, and the repercussions of it. And ever since then, you know, years gone by, and in these times, you know, I've had, like I said, before we started, you know, the interview, I was more when I was in my yoga practice at that time. This is like 2008. I started now leaning more towards what you call a flexitarian lifestyle, right?
Okay. And can you explain that a little bit for the people?
And I got the term from my other mentor, Queen Afua.
Okay. Yes, I heard of her.
So flexitarian in my interpretation of it, it's, you know what I'm saying, for me, and the way my flexitarian lifestyle looked like, I had already been abstaining from pork products for many years, like, you know, and I was, as a child, you know what I mean, as a young woman, I'm talking about like high school, 17, I was like, oh no, I'm not eating pork anymore. And I grew up, you know what I'm saying, in the hip hop culture, you know, and around a lot of Rastafarians, and the type of hip hop I grew up on was people like Wu-Tang, you know, Wu-Tang, they came out of the whole gods and earths, you know what I'm saying? The that offspring of, it's another faction of Islam and consciousness, right? So you would have the 5%ers and, you know, a lot of people from the 5% nation that would teach about, you know, the adverse effects of consuming pork products. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And Wu-Tang, they would rap about it in their lyrics. And like,
Right.
I was like the Wu-Tang fan. I just listened to like everything that they talked about and really absorbed that. So by the age of 17, I had already done away with pork products and all of that stuff. You know, I was still eating meat and everything. Now, fast forward to 2008, you know, late 20s, I'm now moving away from red meat and dairy, because I also had, at a young age, I had a benign cystic fibroid in my breast. It wasn't cancer.
Oh, wow.
It was a cystic fibroid in my breast. And I remember my doctor at the time told me, you have to stop drinking sodas, caffeine and all of that, but they didn't really stress the dairy so much, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
so
right.
I eliminated those things, but and luckily, and it wasn't until I gave up the dairy that it was completely eradicated.
Yeah.
Right. So now moving fast forward into this flexitarian. When I say flexitarian, it's mainly more fish. You know, I was still eating some poultry at times, but definitely no red meat and no dairy. Pork was already out of the question for me.
Right.
So now moving more forward, now leading up into where we are in this global pandemic, I said to my there was certain, like I said, I studied under people like Queen Afua. You know, she told me early on, you know, this was like, I want to say 2 years after I got my yoga certification, I met with her and she, you know what I'm saying, mentored me in areas of my health and wellness. But when she sat with me, she was like, you're going to do the same thing, the same work that I do. I see you doing the same work that I do where you live, you know, for your community.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't understand how that was all going to play out until now. I'm really, you know, this is 11 years now of me, you know, on this journey, you know, of self-discovery, of, you know, going back and realizing, and every year or every further and further I go into my journey, I'm realizing the uncovering and the, you know what I'm saying, the breaking apart, you know, of a way of thinking and living that was very damaging to me to now. You know,
right.
I'm 41 years young, and people they'd be like, how? You know what I'm saying?
Because you look good, you know.
Yeah, good, thanks. And I feel good, and I feel good.
That's
you know
very, that's the most important, is that you feel good.
Right.
Yes.
And 2 children, you know what I'm saying? Like, people like, how do you do it? And I'm like, it's literally because of this lifestyle. It's literally because of my yoga practice. It's literally because of understanding the, you know, the different laws of the universe.
Yes.
And, you know, had been tapping into a higher consciousness and awareness at such a young age up until now, you know. So fast forward to the pandemic, you know, when they started talking about how this virus was affecting people, you know, the spirit guides just said, you know what to do. Just do everything to keep your immune system intact. And what way more can you do that by just going plant-based? And I knew this. I knew that, you know, eventually, late as, you know, as my life went on, I would eventually now phase into an all plant-based lifestyle, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we're here now. We're here now. My children, when they're with me, you know what I'm saying, they're eating plant-based foods. They know the importance of eating plant-based. And I give thanks to our ancestors, you know, our benevolent ancestors and the creator. Ever since this pandemic, none of us have fallen ill.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And also my brother had contracted COVID early on last year, and I helped him recover very good through some of the things that, you know, I do. And I told him, I'm like, look, it's about really, I was like, all right, if you have it, the first thing you need to do is just flush everything out, flush your whole system,
Mm-hmm.
like flood it with green juice, flood it with, you know what I'm saying, liquids and, you know what I'm saying, anti-inflammatories, the sea moss, different things like that, right?
Okay.
And yeah, he was able to recover, you know, very fairly quickly from the symptoms of that. And, you know, it's, again, it all boils down to lifestyle. So, and especially in this day and time that we're living in, these are things that we need to really consider.
Right, right. And I do recall when I was watching one of your videos on the gram, I remember you spoke a little bit about how your vegan lifestyle and the African way of cooking.
Oh yeah,
having to connect with family on that. Can you
yeah,
please elaborate on that? Because I want to know a little bit more about that.
So, and these are some of the things that I was able to uncover, you know, as I was doing the cohort with Pro-Veg Africa. So a lot of African food, when you look throughout the whole African diaspora, it's plant-based. Our food is plant-based, especially the country where I'm from, Liberia. Liberian cuisine consists of things like cassava leaves, things like okra, you know, we call it okra stew, or collard greens, you know what I mean? Because if you know the history of Liberia, there's this back and forth, you know, exchange with, you know, African Americans that were sent there, and, you know what I'm saying, the whole colonial structure of that. A lot of that, you know, some of those Southern cuisines that we're familiar with, we also fix those things in Liberia too, you know, whether it's black-eyed peas, you know, during New Year's and things like that, and collard greens and things too. So it's already plant-based, but what happened via the colonization that took place, a lot of the our freed American brothers and sisters that came over, they brought a lot of the plantation lifestyle with them in the diet. So a lot of salt pork, a lot of, you know, pig foot,
the
and
chitlins.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't really eat chitlins in Liberia. Like, you know, we stay away from like the intestine and stuff like that. I mean, at least my family never prepared. I didn't know about chitlins until I was like, you know, a teenager, and, you know, some of my other friends would talk about it. So, but definitely cow skin. But the thing, like traditionally, so it made me start to really investigate and question. And I was in Liberia earlier this year, and, you know, just really starting to see from a different lens now, you know. And I realized that we as African people need to decolonize our food. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you know, when you think of traditionally, and I even spoke with my mom about this, she was like, yeah, you know, it was during the holiday seasons or a feast season that we would go, you know, have these abundant meals with plenty meat in it. But a lot of the daily diet is really a pescatarian, plant-based diet.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Lot of fish, lot of fresh fish. You know what I'm saying? We even see that in the Senegambian region also.
Right, they're all next to each other. Liberia, Senegal, Gambia,
Right.
Okay.
Sierra Leone, you know, Ghana, you know, a lot of, you know, plant-based. Our food is already a plant-based food, but a lot more fish, you know, things that come from the ocean, especially us being right there on that coastal line, you know. So it's mainly a pescatarian diet. You didn't see people eating meat unless, you know, someone was getting married, or, you know, a baby naming ceremony or something like that, you know what I mean? And when the meat, when the cow was killed, or a goat or a lamb, it's shared with the whole village. It's not one family eating a whole cow to themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's shared and distributed equally throughout the whole village, and people, store it and, you know what I'm saying, use it, very sparingly. That's the traditional way of African cuisine. So now moving forward as, a vegan here, an African vegan living in the US, it really now made me start to question and want to explore, okay, how can I make what I've been used to growing up eating more, make it plant-based? What would plant-based cassava leaf, what would vegan cassava leaf look like? How can I make it look good? What would, if I would make like a Southern fried chicken, like how can I veganize that and make it look good, And we're so fortunate now, we have social media. Like back in the day, being plant-based, it was so tough, you know what I mean? Because it was a total 180. You had to go to a predominantly white neighborhood. You had to you thought that being vegan was all about bland food, not, tasty. Because again, that particular market was commodified heavily and predominantly, white, So I think that's some of the misconceptions. Even now, people transition. That's why I make it a point to show that, to talk about the decolonization of African diasporic food, because, some of the things that we talked about in our cohort with Pro-Veg Africa is we are facing a global crisis, not only in terms of epidemics and pandemics that are to come, but climate change. And then you think of, just preventive diseases in Africa, where, healthcare, is very, it's hard to access quality healthcare in many regions throughout Africa. So if you are constantly, if you can now modify your lifestyle so that you don't have to deal with any of, or at least, keep them at bay, keep it, on a lower level, then we should really consider going back to our indigenous ways of eating and our indigenous lifestyle, which is inherently a plant-based lifestyle.
Okay. All right. So can you give like one or two examples of how you took a traditional dish? I don't know many traditional dishes in Liberia, but can you just give like one example how you, like what kind of substitutes you used or something of that nature?
So one thing I came to discover when you're cooking, because, we were used to, when growing up, my mother would, put plenty meat, because now we're in America, you know what I'm saying? Chicken is only $5.99 a pound, or whatever, so, you know what I mean? We're eating it all the time. So what I discovered was, when it comes to eating, it's all about flavor, texture. Those are the two main things. And if you can find in different plants how to either mimic or get that same feeling of texture, then you're good, So I started, mushrooms. I can't rave enough about mushrooms, you know what I'm saying?
I heard that's a common replacement, is the mushrooms.
Yes, because, we want to now move away from the process, because there's another thing that people don't realize. And I think more and more people are starting to have conversations about it now that veganism is becoming a little bit more mainstream. We want to move away from the processed meat substitutes to more plant-based. At least for me, I know that I don't, usually buy a lot of the Impossibles or the Beyond. Very, very seldomly. Yes, I like Beyond, as one of those, meat substitutes, but I use it, again, very sparingly. It's once in a blue moon, I'll make a vegan meatloaf with it or something. Staying away from the tofu. I do not do tofu. I am not a fan of tofu. I stay away from it, stay far away from it, because the way tofu is processed in this country is very, very harmful.
That's what I heard.
In the long run for you.
Yeah.
So I stay away from things like tofu. So now the substitutes that I now consider are mushrooms, jackfruit, the young green jackfruit. Again, it has that same meaty-like texture. Artichoke.
Those are good.
Yeah, artichoke. I had like Whole Foods sells this really great seasoned, like char grilled artichoke that I kind of use it sometime if I'm doing like, if I want to make a vegan crab cake or something like that. You know, I would mix that, I'd chop it up finely with some, what do they call them? Beach mushrooms, like the long stringy ones that you find at the Asian market. When I tell you that there is so many different species of mushrooms, y'all, this goes beyond your conventional white mushrooms that you see in the grocery store. You know, you have shiitake, you have king oyster, you have lobster, you know, all of these different variations of mushroom that I just go wild with when I'm cooking. Another meat substitute that I do use the Vital Wheat gluten. Sometimes I do a vegan oxtail or nuts, I like to call a vegan oxtail that I like to do. I appeared on a friend of mine, he's a chef too. I appeared on one of his shows and was showing him how I do vegan oxtail, and I think we had made palm butter. Palm butter is a Liberian dish where you take the palm nuts from the tree, you boil them, and then you mash them in the mortar and pestle, and like this rich red palm oil comes from it, and you create like a stew out of that. Like,
oh wow,
that's one of my favorites. And being back home earlier this year, like, you know, like, because I feel like I grew up on all of these canned, shipped over commodities, you know what I mean? But now going back home and tasting like it, because like in my family's compound, we have palm trees in the compound. So sometimes
that's lovely.
And he was cutting down our palm nuts, and we made fresh palm butter. It was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. And another question I have for you is a lot of meat eaters talk about, well, where do these plant-based people get their protein? You know, so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yes, we eat real good in the plant-based kingdom. Don't get it twisted, okay? We eat real good over here. We are thin, slim, thick in this plant-based kingdom, okay? So yes, again, focusing is all about balancing your meal, you know, because you're not eating the animal protein anymore. You're just going direct to the source. Because essentially the reason why you're eating that animal protein is because a lot of the animals that you're eating from, they are on a plant-based diet, and they are getting many of their nutrients straight from those plants. So now, you know what I mean? As opposed to eating the flesh of an animal, you can go straight to the same sources in which they get their protein. Legumes, beans, what are some other things? Even the Vital Wheat gluten has, you know, a high protein content in them. And then I also tell people to use supplements. Make sure you now have a good supplement regimen, you know. So like there's certain herbs that I take, like I take a blend of mushrooms. I do sea moss on a regular basis. Sea moss is very important because it has those 92 vital minerals and nutrients that our body needs. Again, the fish, they eat algae. The fish eat algae too. You know what I'm saying? We're getting all the nutrients that they've been eating up from the algae and the seaweed, all in the underwater kingdom. We can eat those things too. You know what I'm saying? My oldest son loves seaweed chips. Like, I buy like a 12-pack of seaweed chips, and they're gone, and like half of it is gone in the first day. And he's been eating like that since he was baby. So
okay.
Yeah.
And they do well with that. They love it. They love the different
because
foods.
I'm a good cook. At the end of the day, like you gotta, you know what I'm saying? You gotta know what you're doing in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen some of your work, and it does look really good. It does look good. Now, when you were transitioning to a fully plant-based vegan lifestyle, how were you able to deal with family members who were like, what are you doing? You know, this
Oh,
is
that's
not.
yeah. Like you see some of my Instagram reels where I make fun of
Yes.
it. It's like the joke. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's an ongoing joke, right?
Mhm.
This is what happened with my family. So it wasn't until the pandemic happened that their eyes, like how they say in the scripture, the scales were moved from the eyes, you know? It
Yeah.
wasn't until I helped my brother quickly recover from his COVID that they were like, I was like, you see, I was like, the rejected stone has now become the chief cornerstone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you've been right all along. Wow. You know what I mean? And even another time, because my stepfather had passed away last year around this time, I want to say October of 2020. And the family had came over to sympathize and things like that. And, you know, I was doing a catering order, I think it was. And then I had left some extra fried oyster mushroom that I had made. Girl, can I tell you, when I came back, it was gone.
They
Like,
didn't save you a plate.
they said, which one that thing you fixed? It was so tasty. We like it. It's very flavorful. It's very good, you know? And so when they taste it, you know what I mean? They see, like, even, you know, I always shock my mom, you know what I mean? Like, I don't say anything. I just prepare the food. And then when they eat it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was all vegan. And they're like, ah, are you serious? So
That's lovely. That's good. Um, wow. So that was your way of helping your family to transition, was just to, hey, listen, you showed by example and you said, here, try this. And they were just open to just trying it. And that was
right.
it.
Right, because like, you know, one of my partners had told me one time, he was like, you cannot bring people to salvation in chains. You know what I mean? You can't, it's not
Yeah.
gonna happen like that. You know what I mean? You just live your
Right.
life and understand how to live in your authenticity. I'm not saying that it's easy all the time. You know,
Of
it's not
course.
easy. It's like I'm considered like the black sheep of my family. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's it's what it is, you know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
easy sometimes. It's not easy feeling isolated and the only one. When you start to raise your vibrational frequency, a lot of people have already made it, and I learned this in my yoga, during my yoga studies. You know, one of my yoga teachers said, she said, you have to understand, when you come on this path and you start raising your vibrational frequency, there are some people that have incarnated into this life and they've already made a decision that they will not elevate above those lower chakras, those lower 3 or those lower 2 chakras. They've already made that decision. I am not doing it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's
either
true.
you're going to make that choice for yourself to rise above that and maybe inspire the few that will come and meet you up there. But there are a lot of people that have made that decision, you know, and are making that decision daily, because it is a daily decision. It's a daily decision, you know, especially understanding that our portals, we have to be very vigilant about caring for our portals, like our ear gates, our eyes, our mouth, nose, and all the open orifices on our bodies.
That
Because
is such a good way of putting it. I never thought of it that way. I do say we got to watch what we eat. We got to watch what we watch, what we listen to, you know, but I never thought of it in, you know, on that spiritual level as the
and there's
portal.
a balance. There's a balance, definitely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you have to kind of like live out your life and allow. There's been so many instances in my life where like because right in this season right now, I'm in a very reflective space. You know, I kind of took a pause from social media for a few weeks and went back into my cocoon and into my hibernation, because again, we're getting close to winter solstice.
Yeah.
And in this time, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be doing a lot of introspection. And I've gone and experienced a lot of different traumatic situations. And, you know, because when you are called to do this work, there are so many obstacles. There are so many things, you know, like a friend of mine used to say, like, when you make the decision to finally rise above, it's like all the eyes in hell, like, be like, what do you think you're going? Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, they want to, you know what I'm saying?
Try to
Keep you
feed
in
off
that.
of you.
Right, right. That's what it is. Feeding, energy harvesting, right? Harvesting one's energy. And it's so sad to say that we live in a social climate that has taught people how to do that. When it's embedded into the social structure, you know, you really have to make a conscious decision to do an about face and do something different, you know. And when you do that, it becomes very lonely, it becomes very isolating, because, you know, there's a lot of people that just have become accustomed and feel so comfortable in their lower frequencies, you know, and they don't feel that they can ascend, or, you know what I mean, they just don't want to let go of certain things.
That's true.
And that's their journey. You can't hate on anybody for their journey. You know, I've had instances too where I've allowed lower and darker entities, you know what I'm saying, to have interacted with them and, you know, felt the shift and, you know what I mean, things, because I think, you know, when you become enlightened and you become all about love and light, there's a certain naivete that comes with that, you know, when you that you are, you know, of love and light, and you want to, you know what I'm saying, and like I used to call it, I understand like now the false positivity movement, right? The false positivity movement puts you in a space of naivete, and it's very dangerous because now you're vulnerable and you're open to entities that, you know, want to be around that love and light. The sole purpose of energy harvesting.
Right. So it's okay. So you're going through like another healing time now, and like you said, reflective time. So that includes things like some yoga, maybe some meditation. What else, you know, are you doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's always yoga and meditation daily, even if I'm not like getting on the mat. And that's what I love about my mentor, Maya. She told me, even if it's not about getting on the mat, you're doing yoga, sitting up in your bed and taking the moment to consciously breathe, you know, do your breath work. That's yoga. You know, when you are, I call it meditation in motion. Sometimes when I'm washing the dishes, you know, in that silent time, that's a meditation time. You know what I mean? People feel like meditation needs to look a certain way, or it's, you know, all of these different rituals. We are in an energetic place, or, you know, the earth is shifting, the way our consciousness is shifting, and it's shifting at lightning speed, you know. So some of those traditional and ancestral ways of practice, spiritual practice, I'm not to say that we can't do them, but because we are in this lightning speed shift, you know, sometimes we just gonna have to pause right where and that's what the practice is, you know what I mean? You do, like, you know, certain however many hours of meditation and yoga work on the mat, so that when you get into this real life thing that we live in, you know how to, you know what I mean, hold yourself, hold your energy, you know what I'm saying? Harness your own energy through your breath work, you know, or take a moment and, all right, I know when I pull up into my driveway, I'm gonna need 5 minutes before I walk up in the house. And have to now, or even at your job, you know what I'm saying? Before I get there a few minutes early, so that I can energetically get myself together to go into this space, you know what I mean? So that within itself is you putting your yoga practice into your daily lifestyle by, you know, it's all about the pause, right? So and other things that I'm doing a lot of herbal baths, you know,
Oh, okay.
salt baths. Salt bath was my big thing, you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
before. And I got back into my salt bath rituals.
So do you
Um,
use the Epsom salt? Is it the Epsom salt? Okay.
I either use Epsom or sea salt. Right now I'm using
Okay.
Epsom. I'm using
Oh,
Epsom
okay.
now currently. Um, and you know, herbal baths and different things like that, the salt baths. I've been instructed to have a very light diet, because and these are things that Queen Afu had taught me back from before, was to um during every shift of the season you should be detoxing.
Yes,
So
I heard of that.
every fall season, every winter solstice, every spring equinox, every
Hmm.
summer solstice, right?
Yeah.
Those are the periods. Any transitional period into a new season, you need to pause and detox.
Mm.
And I'm really, really being super intentional this year about doing
Okay.
that. You know, so that's why I said I was gathering different things to
Yeah.
prepare for the winter solstice. So I'm gonna be cooking my stews, you know, with the root vegetables, all of the
Hmm.
vegetables that are in season where I
Right.
live. I'm, you
Right.
know, getting those different vegetables, lots of water, hydrating fruits. Yeah, and so I'm pretty much gonna be doing like a liquid, almost like, you know, raw detox, you know, for a
Oh,
while.
okay. So that's what you meant by eating light. Because some people would say, oh, she's already eating light. She's a vegan or, kind of flexible a little bit. But so you mean like,
My version of eating light, no starch, no
okay.
food, you know what I'm saying? Like tonight I'm gonna make some stew, because you know I am a mother. I have
Hmm.
to, you know, make sure my children are fed, right? So making the stews, you know, so that they can eat and, you know, have something for themselves. But for myself, it's gonna be water, it's gonna be raw fruits and vegetables, and you know what I mean, just taking that time to do that for myself.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. We all know self-care is very important. And, you can't help to serve others if you're pouring from an empty cup. You gotta make sure you're right first.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
That's
I say the
amazing.
same exact thing. I say the same exact thing, because you know, eating light, if you really want to, you know, go a little bit deeper with it, it's
Sure.
eating light, high vibrational foods, because these plants, they grow from absorbing sunlight,
Hmm.
right? And when we in turn now eat them in its raw form, we are too ingesting light. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, yeah.
That's wonderful. So I know you have a few services as well as you recently came out with a tea.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
can you please tell us about your tea and your
Yes.
everything you got going on here?
I am I'm also a doula. I like
Okay.
more, yeah, I'm a prenatal and postpartum doula. But I also noticed that doing that work and that research as a doula,
Hmm.
um, the women's reproductive system, you know, benefits off of a lot of herbs, right? There's certain herbs that are very beneficial to our reproductive health that we are not intaking on a regular basis, right? And a lot of people were coming to me about one friend in particular. She, for a long time, had issues with fibroids and things that she's had multiple surgeries. It's like they would come up, she gets them taken out, and they come back again,
Oh, wow.
them taken out, and they come back again. And I told her for a long time, you need to leave this, and that alone. And again, everyone's in their journey, and it's not until you're ready, right? Because
True.
your body will get you to a point where it's like, we can't do this anymore.
Right.
I don't even want, like, your body will now begin to repel the things that are continually making them sick. So she recently told me on certain changes that she's made, and she's like, she's like, I'm talking to someone who had painful menstrual cycles every single month. Every painful symptom that comes with your menstrual cycle, she had it times 10.
Wow.
You know, and just these few adjustments that she's made that I've been telling her about for the longest time. She's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know, like, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know, you know, that's why we have these discussions. That's why I hold this platform, so that people can see that other people are healing and there are solutions to different issues. So
that was the creation of the moon tea, because so many women, I'm talking about DMs upon DMs I would get, I'm having this, what should I do? You know, and I was like, well, you should get this type of tea. And the funny thing is, a lot of women, like, they would order my products, but for some reason they were like, okay, I'm not ready, because it's like they would just like let it sit there and not really take it. But the ones that have now, they're like, oh my word, oh my goodness, this is like life-changing, this is game-changing. I created a moon, it's called moon goddess tea. I have a line of products called Body to Soul. So I do things from plant-based skincare as well as these herbs, you know what I mean? Because again, we think about the things that we put on our skin is eating food, our skin needs proper nutrients and food too. Some of these chemicals that, you know, are put in, you know, commercial products are harmful to us over time, right? So if we can find more plant-based solutions to skincare, and I know a lot of estheticians might disagree. They feel like, you know, well, you need this and that, and you know, but like a lot of these chemicals are, you know, the extracts come from plant life, you know, and are altered. The only reason why in these industries they're telling you that you need these solutions is because they know they can't put a copyright on something that comes from nature. Like God, they can't put a copyright on God-made stuff. It's hard to do that. And that's how they fuel these industries, is by owning certain patents, owning certain copyrights on certain chemical formulations. You know, that helped their industries to be profitable. You know what I mean? So I say that to say I created this line called Body to Soul, so that all the things that you're ingesting, you know what I'm saying, are things that are good for your body and essentially your soul. So the Moon Goddess tea is for women who suffer from painful menstrual cycles and other reproductive issues. I'm going to begin to start doing a lot of different blends. And the blend that I have is infused with CBD, right?
Okay.
So CBD infused tea. Now for those, CBD is a part of the marijuana plant or the cannabis plant, but the CBD is federally legal. It is federally legal according to the 2018 Farm Bill. CBD is legal federally, right? And the fact that I have it in a tea form, it's, you know what I'm saying, it's easy to digest and all that good stuff.
Oh, that's good. So you have the tea, you do some coaching as well.
Yep. So it's the coaching practice is just for women who want a more in-depth one-on-one consultation and wellness strategy that is for their particular. So women that really want to get into the plant-based lifestyle, or they notice that there's certain things, because let's be clear, you know, sometimes the foods that we choose is tied to old traumas, right?
Yes.
Some of the foods that we choose, some of the food choices that we make are tied to old traumas that we haven't, you know, dismantled or dissolved, right? So using a lot of the yogic practices that I've used in my life, along with the plant-based nutrition knowledge, I've worked with women to now create a health plan, a holistic wellness plan for themselves,
Okay.
so that they can begin to do that real in-depth transformational work.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. A lot of people do need those coaches. You know, that line of work that you're doing really helps people to make that transition, because a lot of people are interested in that right now. You know, a lot of people are into taking control of their own health, like you said, with that sister who kept dealing with the fibroids. And that's great. That's wonderful. So is there anything else that you would like to let people know who are interested in improving their life, improving their health?
Yes, so I do have cooking classes coming up. We were talking all about food in the
Okay.
beginning, and like
Yeah.
food makes me excited. It gets everyone else excited.
Mm-hmm.
So I have cooking classes coming up. You can go to my website, www.soulplantifulcatering.com. And there you can scroll down and find the different events that we have going on. And that's one of them. So the first class that I'll be hosting will be January 8th. I actually have, a few people that are going to be live in person while we're doing this, but then it's
Okay.
also a virtual class too. So if you don't want to come out, or we don't live in the same region, you can definitely log on to the online virtual class where I go step by step, on preparing a lot of these foods. And it's going to be a series of classes that happen in the month of January, because, the new year is always that time where we think
Yep.
we want to turn over a new leaf. We want
Yep.
to try something different, get on track with some of our wellness goals and things like that. So it'll be a series of classes that I do, over the course of January. And like I said, you can go to the website, www.soulplantifulcatering.com, to sign up for the class.
Oh, great. So wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth and knowledge and wisdom, your experience in healing using yoga and the whole yogic lifestyle, not only of the mindfulness and the meditations and the physical exercise, but also the quietness and the eating correctly, and just overall health, mental, physical, emotional. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on your platform. I'm so grateful.
Yes, yes. All right, everyone. So as you can see, we had a wonderful, beautiful, dynamic Satta Jallah to share her wealth of wisdom. Please do subscribe and like. Please let us know in the comments below if you have any questions about what we spoke about today, or any comments. If you're going through a transition from meat eating to plant-based. And as always, please stay active in your self-care. And until next time.